1, 2. Ooh. Hello. Everybody back. You had a good break? Yeah. Johann is not here anymore. He was like this. Johann Strauss, have you heard of him? He was like a cheerleader for me to warm up the audience. So now, welcome back to the stage. I introduce myself again for those of you who haven't been here. Kathleen, or Kathleen. I have a background in science communication, but today I'm just your CTO, your Chief Time Officer, and the Master of Ceremony, which means I introduce the people, but as the CTO, Adrian, you will see that now. I am also here to help, to help the speakers stick to the time. And if they don't, then I come on stage. I didn't have to do that in the first part of the day. And some of them used their time so wisely that we actually had 5 or so minutes to discuss further what they presented. So this is also our aim for the afternoon. And as I said, Adrian, please let me introduce our first speaker for this afternoon. It's Adrian Locher, or Locher. He is from Merantix Capital, as you see. He's a visionary, an entrepreneur, an investor in artificial intelligence, like his company is. He's a co-founder of that company, and he has been instrumental in advancing AI innovations across Europe. He will talk today about this decade of investing into AI companies, how to build them, how to sell the product, how to find the right team, the right people who are actually part of this, and to push this from piloting models into real applications that people then use. And with that, I have to say, if you don't know, do you know Merantix? Anybody? Oh. There is like 5 people or so who don't, so I don't have to say much more other than you might not know that it's over 800 people and 70 to 80 AI European entrepreneurs, 70 to 80 teams. Sorry, my break was a bit short. Anyways, Adrian, the stage is yours and that's your applause. Thank you.
All right, thanks a lot, Kathleen. Actually, the number grew a bit in the last couple months and years. So right now on the Merantix campus, there is 1,500 people working in AI and machine learning, about 100 different teams. My community teams usually tells me it's 1,600, so sorry for delivering the wrong numbers. But anyways, that's the campus, and I'm today talking about our VC investing business, which is much smaller. So our team actually is less than 10 people, and it's also gonna stay there. Just 2 or 3 more words about myself, because that's quite important for the context. So I've been myself investing in probably 50 plus companies over the last years. I'm an economist by training, engineer by heart. Started my first software company when I was at uni. That's 25 years back. Was very lucky because that company later went IPO. Started to invest and build other companies, had 2 more significant exits before then 10 years ago turning investor. And when I say turning investor, I would still consider myself mostly a founder. That happens to invest because I like the early stage so much. So today I'm going to talk about the learnings we have had in 10 years investing in AI. That's right, because 9 years ago, we started Merantix, which was, I started personally investing in founders, helping them to build their first companies. That then grew into what we today call a venture studio and VC fund. So we actually help founders to incubate their companies, but we also invest in teams that are a bit farther down the road, have already figured out their first initial go-to-market product and team, and then we invest as a classical VC. So we're a mix, studio and VC. And when we started investing, we quickly realized, actually, it takes a bit more than just money to make these companies grow. And that's also largely what I'm going to talk today. So here's the money. Yes, we have a 100 million fund that invests in these kind of companies, but that's not the main differentiator for us being an investor. Part of the group is a solutions services company, you could say consulting firm, about 100 people called Merantix Momentum. They don't work for startups, they work for corporates and governments all around Europe. We have built the Merantix campus that was mentioned before, with 1,500 people in the community in Berlin, around the corner, south of the AEG building in the northern part of Mitte. And we're doing the same now in London. So we're building a campus in London too. Then we've also been the founding partners and the co-founders of the AI Association, in German, the KI Bundesverband, which is quite instrumental in helping shaping policy. And we are also sort of a think tank enabler. We have started the AI House, which was now happening for the second time in Davos in January at the World Economic Forum, where we hosted 50 different events over 5 days with approximately 3,000 people coming into a large Swiss house in the middle of Davos. What are we doing as an investor? We're focusing on what people usually call the application layer. That is, we're mostly interested in finding new types of business models that emerge on AI as a general purpose technology. We're not so much investing in the infrastructure, read or speak large language models, foundational models. We're also not so much investing in the tooling layer, but we're really investing on the application layer, and there then going vertically deep. So whenever we look into a company, we are interested in how that company can actually grow along the value chain, be a dominant part of the value chain, and not just a point solution. We're very much about building multi-dimensional, interdisciplinary teams. One of our secret sauces is bringing together people who usually don't meet in real life. So when we build a tech bio or biotech company, these are chemists, biologists, machine learning, market people, marketing, customer care people who usually wouldn't meet. But what we do is we bring these teams together and then let them work on big problems and make sure they can solve them. Another part is we're deeply European committed. So we are building European companies that can become global champions, which also means we're mostly focusing on industries that we believe we can win here with the strengths that Europe has. And I'm going to go back to that, what this is. Not very surprising for the ones who have been here in the morning. I'm sure Europe has it all. We just failed to put these things together. Well, that exactly is the mission we have at Merantix. As promised, I'm mostly going to talk about the stuff we have learned in those 5 years, or 10 years. So it's 5 learnings in 10 years. And I'm going to be frank, and I'm going to be honest. Like, being an early stage investor is probably the toughest place you can be as a VC. But personally, I think it's also the most fun. I myself, I'm an investor in several funds, private equity, VC, also later stage growth. That is nice financial engineering and optimization, but for me, the real fun is in the early stage, 0 to 1. That's why I'm doing what I'm doing. And I'm going to be a bit provocative with the first one. Complexity is the moat. When you look at AI companies, right now, you see a lot of the buzzwords, and you see a lot of stuff that, frankly, won't exist in 5 years, sometimes not even in 1 year from now, because it's just surface level stuff, like wrappers of any type of large language model optimized for a specific group, be it an agency or consulting firm, well, that won't be a big business model. And it's surely not a venture backable model. And that is one of the big challenges, but also the opportunities actually for founders, to be honest. Because right now, whenever a founder talks to me, I would grill them very hard by asking, why do you want venture funding for this? You can also build this company bootstrapped. Because building a company today costs nothing. Technology is out there. I've done it myself. I recently wanted to know how I can find founders on Twitter. So I used Manus, which is a competitor of ChatGPT, Chinese origin, better in my eyes in research tasks. I asked Manus how to identify great engineers on X, formerly Twitter, and how to find them that want to build a company. So Manus did a lot of research, wrote 20 pages of insights, and then I told him, okay, now I want you to turn this into the specs to build this code, this product. I then took the code, the specs, went to Lovable. Lovable built me the tool. Took me 20 minutes. That thing was ready. And it looked like the enterprise-grade SaaS tool. Cost, I don't know, maybe $50 in credits. That's it. So today, building a company is cheaper than ever. And that's also great, because you can build a lot of great products that people need and people use and charge your clients for that. But it doesn't necessarily need to be a venture case. Because a venture case, I need to see returns anywhere between 100 and 1,000x. So if I'm investing in a company, I need to see a clear path of that company being 100 times as valuable, even better, 1,000 times as valuable. Well, majority is not. And you can also see that when you now look into the market. And I don't want to shame these companies, because they're great companies and they're great teams. But you can see that there was a lot happening out there in companies who got funded with tremendous amounts of money, only to discover a couple of years later, well, now we're being acquired by one of the big players because we're not able to compete. Because the market is moving so quick, so fast. And let me tell you, if you think about ChatGPT, the big question that people should be asking themselves right now is, well, is it Yahoo or is it Google? The company that is not mentioned here is probably the most extreme example is the Inflection, the company that Mustafa has built and that acquired investing of 1.2 billion before then being acquired by Microsoft, which is more or less Mustafa now works, which is a great guy, love him, now works with Microsoft, and Microsoft is using the technology. And certainly, it was not 1,000x return. So I'm rushing through this now a bit to make sure we can also have a Q&A and some more insights of the stuff that actually interests you. But our thinking model of this moat finding and the complexity that we like is actually the following. On the right side is what we like the most. When your product is deeply integrated in workflows of your clients, has a lot of contextualization, has a lot of data ownership. In other words, you can't just rip it out, because it has become the new systems of record in your business. Think of Salesforce. Whoever has integrated Salesforce or any other large CRM or even SAP into their businesses knows that once it's in, it's almost impossible to get rid of. These are the best business models. Second learning. Very European question, actually. Because I've been living myself in the Bay Area for almost 3 years before then making a very conscious decision of coming back and living here, living in Europe and building Merantix in Europe. One of the big issues in in Europe is when I'm a two-person startup and I have a great idea and I want to go and sell that to a corporate, well, good luck with that. It's not happening. Well, it happens a lot in the US. So US corporates are much more daring when it comes to trying out new stuff. This is exactly where we come in. So in the beginning, I said we have built Merantix as a platform, not only as an investor, and this platform includes a lot of different parts. And one of the parts is our deep integration with European corporates. So we have a lot of touch points with European corporates, be that with the campus community, be that with Momentum, be that with the AI house. That builds trust of these corporates in our brand, and that is then translatable to when we introduce small, early ventures to these corporates and be like, hey, you should actually work with them, you should build a design partnership, then that happens because these corporates trust in us that we have vetted the company that we're bringing. One example is Deltia, manufacturing analytics, robotics company in our portfolio, currently working for, I think, about 20 large industry players in Europe and the US. When we started that company, at day 0, when the company was incorporated, they already had 4 paying customers. These paying customers, like ABB, Viessmann, and the likes, they signed the contract on the base of a PowerPoint. Not a working product, not an MVP. 2 founders, 1 PowerPoint. That was how we got these over the line. 3 months later, they rolled out their first product. Now, some inconvenient truth when you sign up for the venture game, the startup game. You know, it's a long road. So the overnight success are usually 8-9 years in the making. Why? Because it's so complex and there's so many things that you need to take care of to build a successful company. And what we have learned is founders who come in to make money, they usually don't have the stamina. They usually don't have the energy to pull it through over this long period of time. So what we like to see is someone that is incredibly passionate about whatever they're building, because we know that passion will be the energy that will push you through the moments when it gets hard. And believe me, I've built 10 companies of my own. It always gets hard. There's always a moment when you're asking yourself, what the fuck? Why am I doing this to me? I'm now going to walk you through 4 or 5 different founder personalities, personas that in our experience have worked very well in our portfolio of currently 16, 17 companies. The technical academic, super deep expertise in 1 or 2 or more fields. Strong desire to not only see that in academic publishing, but also see it in reality. Usually, they don't have a lot of go-to-market or industry in the sense of business knowledge. So we help them with figuring the go-to-market out. We help them with finding the right initial clients, designing the initial product. The corporate SKP. Some people might feel addressed. Rightly so. Well, you know, if you think about having impact, a lot of times large corporates are not built to do that because they're built to last and they're built to operate on foreseeable results. Well, building a company is the opposite of that. So at some point, people decide, now I feel ready to start my own company and be my own boss, to then quickly learn, well, the thing with the boss doesn't work so well. No matter what you do, you always have a boss, right? I have investors, so even though it's my own company, I am reporting to them. But what works with them is usually through our platform, through our network, we can help them identifying the right technical co-founders, building these teams very, very quick. So whenever we go out and search for a specific persona or profile, we usually have hundreds of inbound candidates within days. That's one of the big strengths that our platform has. The serial entrepreneur. Here on the picture is Felicia. She has built Ovom, which is a fertility company. Just 2 weeks ago, opened their first clinic in Portugal. And when I say clinic, I mean clinic. That's also where you can see vertical integration. So we're probably not going to build 100 clinics because we don't want to, because that's not scalable enough. But in order to actually build the operating model, we need to open your own first, probably 2 to 3 clinics before you can then think of going into a franchise type of business. What we like about serials, of course, is they've been there. They've gone through it, sometimes successful, sometimes not, sometimes both. In my case, it's both. So I have very successful exits in my back, but I also have terrible failures. And the interesting thing usually is people who have been through that, they're more humble, they are more reflected, they know exactly what they're good at and what not. And because of that, they're usually good leaders, can build great teams because they know where to complement themselves. They also have this hunger still. And they know how, right? So for us, it's sort of like we offer them the toolkit of our platform, and they usually get up to speed very, very quickly. So 4 out of 5 companies that we have built in the last batch of our studio model, 4 out of 5 companies have achieved 500K ARR within less than 6 months after getting started. 3 of them have then raised seed rounds after our pre-seed within less than 10 months on the back of super fast serious traction. This one is a fun one, the Mafia Entrepreneur. On the picture is Julius. He's building a cybersecurity company with us. He comes from a very well-known mafia in Germany. There is a few. I don't know if the slide says it. So I'm not yet at liberty to talk too much about this case, but we're just getting started. They have raised the first, opened the first, I think 10 clients right now. We're working in cybersecurity. Teams that have, or he was very early in a company that scaled to, I think now over $1 billion in revenue. And when you were very early in such a company, you've seen a lot, you've learned a lot, and you've had great mentorship by your founders. That then makes these operators very viable founders. Solo AI developer. On the picture you see Silvio. He's been leading Volkswagen autonomous research in the whole group before turning entrepreneur. So he knows a bit about AI and robotics. He's now building Deltia that I showed before. We paired him up with his co-founder, which was one of the important steps because he needed someone on the commercial side, even though he himself has a very commercial thinking, but still we needed someone who has been selling enterprise-grade stuff into industry. Well, that's one of the biggest impacts we probably had on Deltia, besides then also opening these alleys up to industry and sell the product at the very early stage. So to sum it up, as it's probably very obvious now, by now, early stage is not about capital. It's about a lot of other things. Yes, it's also about capital, but capital is just to keep the lights on. The rest matters much, much more. Industry access to the ecosystem, building this trust, and having these people wanting to work with you, these large industry players that usually shy away from, when you're a 120-year-old company, what do you do with a 2-month-old startup? It scares the shit of you. Sorry for my French. We are able to bridge that trust. It ends up, of course, with some money as well. And so, probably in line with the main message this morning, I'm going to finish with, yes, it's actually all of us. So if you want AI made in Europe to thrive, we need to make sure we are pushing, developing, and giving this ecosystem a chance. Thanks for your support.
Thanks, Adrian. Any questions from the audience? We have the microphone here and can hand it around. This is such a full crowd after lunch and nobody has a question. I can ask things. So, oh, you go. Oh, let's see if my question is. No, you go first. Audience first.
All right.
Johan.
Check, check. Yeah. For those who haven't seen me, Johann Strauss, Chief Technology Officer for AI at Dell. And this is basically a question to you. How can the two of us work together so that I understand your ecosystem of people that really built things that are different? You're absolutely right. Thousands of companies, they just copy and paste things over. Makes no sense to me. So that's my
how can we collaborate? Well, I think and that's the cool thing about the ecosystem that we have built. There is different stages we can collaborate, right? So it starts at the lowest and less invasive level, like becoming a partner of the campus, interacting on campus. Last year, I think the campus has hosted 300 events. So more than one per working day. There's a lot of partnerships that go on and are about building the community, doing events to certain topics that can be anything from very broad topics to paper reading groups. So we have events with 200 people and we have events with 20 people. That's the initial step. And then we also, let's say the most sophisticated one, which is one that we've been doing more recently, and some of you have probably heard it. We have built what we call the corporate LP program. So we now have a couple big corporates also becoming investor in our fund. We've recently announced KPMG. We've recently announced a very German company, Jungheinrich, the forklift company with 6 billion in revenue, where then, of course, the partnership is going much deeper.
I think next.
One more comment on this. I'm very interested in those people you have that I can take into my portfolio and say, here's the guys that know how to build this. Yeah, because we're building the platforms for them. But we're going to talk anyway.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. There was a question next to you. No, next to you.
Next.
Next.
Hello.
Hi.
Thank you for the presentation. I just actually wanted to ask, from the profiles you just described, when investing into a startup, how many of these profiles do you deem necessary for one startup? Is one of these profiles enough for you to invest into them, or does it have to be a combination?
That's a great question. Well, so in a lot of ways, we are a bit a strange animal when it comes to being a VC, because we also invest in incomplete teams. We also invest in the first founder because we are very certain that we can build the team it takes and help this founder to attract his other co-founders that are required to build a successful company. And we are going to be very particular about what kind of profiles do we need, usually after we have validated the go-to-market. Because a lot of times, startups are built by a team that comes together and is then, okay, we want to build a company. And then they start to think about how to put this company into the market, and then realizing, oh, well, but we need resources that we don't have in the team. Well, we go the other way around. We think about the go-to-market and then also about what are the resources we need for that. So usually, I would argue that majority of our companies you now have in a portfolio consists of several of these profiles in each company.
Thank you.
I have a last question here, and then time is up.
Thank you for the presentation.
Wait. Yeah.
Thank you
Because
for the
there's still
presentation. You
people
Merantix
online.
people always make nice presentations and nice events, so kudos for that. Hypothetical questions. You were talking about putting multidisciplinary teams together. Hypothetical, how would you get into the roster of being considered for a role? Where do you get those people? Do you have like a platform or is it like...
Yeah, so actually campus is the majority or is the biggest magnet for these talents to spend time with us and get to know us, and we get to know them. Then the second layer or the second degree network usually also is really, really interesting. So when we build companies and when we built the campus, we wanted the DNA to be, we are collaborators, we help each other. So whenever I hear someone looking for someone, I'm going to think about my network. And now if you think that happening with 1,500 people, you can see how large the ripple effects can become.
Thank you.
Thank you. Running out of time, I have one question, but I actually prepared that for your original title about Europe. Why do you think, from a global perspective, how can we show startups, investors, and anybody who wants to bring ventures up that Europe can compete globally?
I think it's I know it's not going to live up to expectation when I say, well, we just need to stop thinking. We need to start acting.
Can someone translate that?
And I think the second one that is very dear to my heart is we need to fucking be willing to make mistakes.
Yeah.
That is what's keeping up from doing, right?
Yeah. Fail often and fail fast. Can someone translate? Machen ist wie wollen, nur krasser. So let's do it.
Yeah, I love it.
Thank you so much,
Thank
Adrian.
you.
Thanks for bringing that. And yes, that's your applause. And I need that one. Thanks. Because that belongs to our next speaker, who is